Welcome to Saturday. It is time for the weekly wrap-up, the WWU. And here we are. Are we getting closer to shitting the fan? Are we getting further from it? How was this week? How did it work out for us? I got to tell you, it is every week. Now, this is fascinating. I mean, I don't just like talk about one or two things in the weekly wrap-up. I try and kind of get a good cross-section of everything that's gone on. And every week it appears that we get a whole different chunk of many things. And we never talk about the same thing again and again and again and again. And that's all we got to talk about. And it's one of the things that makes doing this channel interesting, fun, and lively. It has tons of variety. I mean, if I was just talking about gold or just talking about guns, it would get boring and it would become monotonous. This is far from monotonous. And it all, to me, shows us how shit is hitting the fan. Shows us why we need to be preppers. And it teaches us valuable lessons, or at least it does for me. It teaches valuable lessons. So let's get into it. This week, right, I want to give some context to this for the YouTube algorithm. Here's the context. These are our opinions that we're sharing. There's your context. Got news stories, but they've got an angle that tell us about what is happening politically, socially, legally, economically. I mean, everything. It's all in here. It's all intertwined and wrapped up. And I really think people don't have the time. They don't have the inclination to put up with all of the news that they're just being bombarded with. They're just trying to live their lives, and I don't blame them. Someone like me, this is incredibly interesting, and I want to deal with it. So let's start with the sports thing. A fella named Mason Rudolph apparently told Myles Garrett or used a racial slur. And this is professional football, NFL. And the black guy got mad, thought he heard a racial slur, tore the helmet off the other guy's head, tried hitting him or hit him in the head with the helmet over a racial slur. And my question is, what really is racist here? And again, and it's all about definitions and how we think. My definition of racism is thinking you're superior to someone else. Identifying me as a German or a Swede or whatever, that's not racism. Calling me some ridiculous name isn't racism. Anyways, what is racist? Is it racist that the retaliation for thinking he heard a slur and the assault and attempted murder? Because trying to hit someone in the head with a hard object, it's kind of a little more than battery or assault. It's, you get your head caved in, it's murder. And it's not during the course of a play. In other words, it's not part of the sports. So after the play is dead, this is not just a personal foul. It's beyond that, right? Anyways, assault and attempted murder for speaking a word. Someone spoke a word you didn't like, and so you can attempt to murder someone? Or is calling someone a racial slur sufficient provocation and justification for violent retaliation? In other words, is it racist and therefore some kind of threat that you have to kill someone over? Right? And so the question really isn't being asked that. It's whether or not the guy said it. To me, that doesn't matter. Whether he said it or not doesn't matter. And whether the guy just wanted to punch him or try and kill him doesn't matter. To me, what matters is what's going on in their heads. Right? That we think that someone using a word requires or invokes violence to this degree is incredible. If I were to respond violently to all of the anti-white racial slurs that have been thrown and hurled and beaten into me in some cases, I would be in prison. But it's just not that big a deal. They're just words. Remember that thing when we were kids? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's what we used to be told by our parents, by siblings, by friends. You know, hey, they're just words. And if you're not bright enough to see the value in yourself, regardless of age, race, gender, creed, religion, and have confidence and love yourself, that words hurt that bad, you've got some problems. And I know we have problems. This is evidence we have problems. And again, right, just words. For the weekly wrap-up, over in Chico, or down in Chico, depending on how you look at it geographically. For everyone who is east of Chico, it's over in Chico. For everyone north of Chico, it's down south. Okay, anyways, enough of that shit. My son was down there with a friend visiting campus, and he had nothing to do with the videos that are up. But, apparently some person, I think it's a woman, it has breasts anyways, was holding a sign, I think, that said, Black Lives Matter. And so on campus, which is where you're supposed to learn and think, a white guy got up there with a sign that says, All Lives Matter. Now I know now I know this is, I guess, a major insult. I thought we were supposed to be, one of the newest catchwords that's been going around that I've been learning about is inclusive, meaning not exclusive, not excluding other races, genders, age groups, religions, sexual preferences, whatever. To be inclusive. Apparently, the word all isn't inclusive. Apparently, the word all means white. So by having a sign that said all lives matter, it was interpreted by these fruitcakes that he was saying white lives matter more than everyone else. And so she felt threatened, tore the paper out of his hand, started assaulting and beating him. This is an example to me of where our world is going and why we need to be preparing, getting ready. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, because these are the people. It pervades entertainment. It pervades social thought. It carries itself from people's living rooms out into the public. Whether it's on TV or on a campus, it's happening in restaurants. People are losing their shit. Right? It's ridiculous. The level of violence people are taking because they're offended. It is all about social engineering and controlling people. And speaking of social engineering and controlling people, right? This week we've had impeachment stuff going on, but guess what happened? When no one was looking, or we were all distracted, right? The Patriot Act, it got renewed by the Democrats in Congress. That's right, the Patriot Act has been signed in Congress. Now, Senate probably has to be involved in this. Is the government going to renew a statute allowing the government? Is the government going to allow the government to continue spying on us, controlling us, directing us, violating our rights because of an emergency? That happened this week. That is not good. That's not freedom. That's not going to help us avoid shit hitting the fan. Because if it did, if it would, we wouldn't be as bad as we are now. Right? If the Patriot Act was so good, how come the world isn't full of prancing bunnies and deer, sniffing flowers and drinking Kool-Aid out of rivers? It's just not that. It's not that kind of world. And the Patriot Act didn't make it that. All it did was give the government incredible power to monitor and control our lives. That happened. You bet. And speaking of government wanting to look into our lives, it's quite interesting. The FBI, an FBI official, is under criminal investigation for fabricating evidence in the Russiagate probe. Things are coming around full circle. They're coming around full circle. It appears to me, after this week, it appears to me that the Democrats, and this is a partisan left-right, Republican-Democrat level, At that level in Washington, they appear to be fighting each other. And it appears that the Democrats and then their allies who are rhinos, it would appear to me that they have been attacking Trump and going after him, knowing that eventually and ultimately they would be being prosecuted, investigated, and looked into. Once again, if we hearken all the way back to the President Trump inauguration, Hillary Clinton was, I'm going to paraphrase here, at some point in there, in that time frame, she said, if that son of a bitch or whatever the hell she was saying gets elected, we're all going to hang. Well, it's finally coming to fruition. The FBI officials are under investigation. In December here, there's going to be a giant report finally released. Thank God, finally. Rudy Giuliani has been coming under incredible attack, incredible attack, trying to make him look like he is committing crimes. And that's all of this shit is being thrown against the wall by the Democrats. But it appears now that Rudy Giuliani, guess what he's been doing, right? He has been over talking with the Ukrainians, finding out how dirty the Bidens, the Obamas, and the Clintons, and all of their ilk have been over there. It appears that they have all been pillaging and plundering Ukraine. Now, of course, that's the right-wing story, and the left-wing story is that Giuliani is over there hurting people and threatening them and making them feel bad and hurting their feelings, like that lady who was the ambassador. Oh, he did a smear campaign on her. Welcome to Washington. Welcome to big-time politics. Everyone gets smeared by the other side. Duh. Where the fuck have you been, lady? Anyways, now here's the thing with Giuliani. I understand his involvement in 9/11 is at some level and it's suspicious. I get that. But what did he do prior to that? What made Rudy Giuliani famous? Well, he was an investigator and prosecutor. And I don't distinguish between the two, for what he did was bring down organized crime. I believe it was John Gotti, right? Found out what he was doing, looked into his organization, took years to accomplish, took him to court, right? Prosecuted him, threw him in prison. That's what Giuliani does. That's what his professional expertise is. His professional expertise is not being a nice guy. He's a New Yorker. Right? So he's got some tough in him. He's got some I don't give a fuck in him. Kind of like President Trump. It's just New York. And he's been digging up stuff. And he's acting on, you would say, in the president's defense as his defense attorney. But if he finds evidence of criminal wrongdoing, guess what? He can turn that right over to the Attorney General's office, Department of Justice. That's what he does. And he's been over there digging this shit up. And if you think the Democrats, the powerful ones, aren't hearing about it, also the CIA and, yeah, the FBI, he's under criminal investigation too for making shit up, faking information. And what are we seeing is going on? While the Democrats are trying to paint the president as committing an offense, a crime, bribery, right? It's come out that everything that they're talking about the right-wing administration doing, the left-wing anti-administration has already done, admitted to, and they're going to be proved. We're going to have a partisan war, folks. That's the upshot of all this that I'm talking about. We're going to have a partisan war. You have to have the ability to defend yourself. I think it's a foregone conclusion. It's just done. People, this is incredible. And this is the social political divide. It's funny, economics unites people because it relies on numbers. Yeah, rich Democrats like being rich Democrats. They don't want to lose their money. But, over in politics and social stuff, guess what? The divide is so great it cannot be bridged. We're now done. So with these impeachment hearings, guess what? If you're on the left, they will never, will not refuse to believe what the right says are facts. And the right, those of us who believe in, let's see, common sense, reality, logic, law and order, we refuse to accept their opinions and their feelings. This is coming down to a battle between facts and opinions, reality and feelings, law and order and wishes and unicorn farts. But the thing is it doesn't matter what you believe. The other side believes what they believe. It's their faith. It's their belief in what is right. We say, but facts are facts and they're indisputable. That's what we believe. It is our perspective. It is what is our foundation. Their foundation is something completely different. And as a result, we can't come together. And this wedge is being hammered in right now. Absolutely hammered in. And it's deeper. If you remember, 3 years ago, presidential election, there was literally sobbing and tears and breaking down. Democrats had to go see psychologists for post-traumatic stress disorder. It wasn't because Republicans were shooting at them, shouting, Aladdin. It's because they whipped themselves into an anti-Constitution, anti-freedom, anti-Trump frenzy. And when they lost, they took it to heart, right? I'll call it PTSD, you bet. They are so weak, so soft, so mentally confined to that one little reality they dream of that when they're told you don't get that, their world is shattered. So I went from social stuff and sports over to politics, but in politics, guess what's there? The same weak-minded character because of the social engineering that's going on. It's truly dividing us between those of us that think and those of us that feel, right? And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Giuliani is getting facts. I would be shocked at this point if there aren't some sort of actions taken. And I'm getting shocked all the time, so I won't be surprised. Shocked? Yes. Surprised? No. I'm expecting anything to happen, including shit to hit the fan. I'm expecting violence. I'm expecting retaliation. I'm expecting a physical coup. We're already seeing a soft coup. I'm expecting a military coup at this point. Yeah, military coup. Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, right? He is a Ukraine immigrant. Apparently has a twin brother that's also in the military. He calls himself Lieutenant Colonel because that's his rank. But I got to tell you, I don't care. I don't care what branch of the service. I don't care what the rank is, enlisted, commission officer. I don't care. This guy is apparently, according to experts who use logic and reason, looks like he has perjured himself during the impeachment inquiry. Well, that's pretty dishonorable, don't you think? And in fact, he corrected one of the congressmen. He called him Mr. Vindman, and he said, no, that's Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. I tell you what, as a civilian government with civilian oversight of the military, that is the equivalent, right, of the kid telling the parent how he's to be addressed. The military doesn't run this country, or at least it's not supposed to. And that may be at the crux, the heart of what's going on. Is it supposed to be by the people, the people's representatives? The military isn't supposed to tell us, right? That's for the inter-military people to tell. Right? And lieutenant colonel is not that big of a position. Sorry. Just as a little enlisted guy, I could walk into the office of lieutenants, captains, majors, lieutenant colonels. I could just walk right in and talk to them. It's not that big a deal. Get up into your flag grade officers. That's something different, right? Full bird colonel, yeah, that commands some respect. And they all command respect as far as I'm concerned. But not when you're an asswipe. But I want to get to this one word that I just mentioned a minute ago. The word is inquiry. In America here, we don't tend to have many inquiries. That's a little bit more of a British thing, right? We have hearings, we have trials, we have other names, but they use the word inquiry. Now, it's important to note, for shit it's the fan purposes and what they're doing, how they're dividing everyone, this week especially, I want to remind everyone, this is not an impeachment hearing. This is an impeachment inquiry. It is not being done by the full Congress. It is being done by a committee. And moreover, it's not the judicial committee in order, judicial laws, right? Justice would look at an impeachment offense. This is the Intelligence Committee that is looking and doing an impeachment inquiry, right? We've got the FBI, we've got State Department officials, we've got all of these people with their opinions, but it's being done inquiry, to question, inquiring, inquisition. This is an inquisition being held, not with all Congress. Witnesses are being locked out. Questions are not being allowed to be asked. Witnesses that have caused this to happen are being hidden. Their names are protected, even though we all know them. Does this sound like something that's normal? Or does this sound like a fucking kangaroo court, star chamber, frosted flake, plastic banana bullshit game that's being played? Well, that is exactly what it is. This is an inquiry. It's not even impeachment. This is a stage-managed circus run by lunatics and charlatans. The point is, in pointing this out, is that they can vote all they want in the committee. It has nothing to do, it's not an impeachment. And I'm willing to bet that the ignorance of Democrats on the street is they're going to think that if they hold a vote and say, yeah, we're going to pass this on to Nancy Pelosi, they're going to think that that's an impeachment. It's not. And an impeachment in the full House doesn't remove the president. It's just an impeachment. The trial has to be held in the Senate. So what is really important here is the appearance of wrongdoing, right? But I think the line has been drawn, and people have split off under their sides, and now we have partisan factions. Partisan factions for politics. We got partisan factions for sports. We've got partisan factions over race, gender, age. They've completely split the country in half. Right, and speaking of the race one, let's jump back on. This week, Jussie Smollett. Remember Jussie Smollett? I believe he is black, homosexual, and an actor. And he tried getting some people to beat him up and then blame it on whites, call it a race crime because he wanted to get a job acting again or a bigger role. So he tried making himself famous, got in trouble, tied up all kinds of other government officials who tried sweeping it under the rug. Now he's saying the police and the two Nigerians that he wrote a check to, right, framed him. You see, it's why can't we all just get along? We can't. It's impossible. This line has been drawn. Right? And it's not black and white. It's people who believe a certain way and believe a certain way about things like black and white. And we believe different ways. We have different ways of thinking. People who are conservative have a different way of thinking, regardless of color, age, race, gender, etc. Or sexual identity. Sexual preference, right? There are very conservative gays. I got it. Known about them a long time. I used to call them log cabin Republicans, right? Which I always thought was kind of funny, a funny name, but I like to laugh. Fuck me. Sorry. I get to laugh. Too bad. Log cabin Republican, funny as fuck, right? But this is what we've got. We've got a circus, but we're all divided. The way we think, you either think freedom is good or you think freedom is bad, right? You're either a conservative or you're a fucking communist. There's no more in this middle. The middle ground is disappearing as the gulf widens. It used to be that the moderates or independents would stand in the middle and for a variety of reasons wait and then choose which way they were going to swing in an election. The gulf is so wide, they can't straddle it anymore. Either you're for freedom or you're for complete totalitarianism, right? It's very difficult, right? You're for inclusion or you're for only special interest groups, right? This is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. We've got big, big trouble coming, folks. This week is no exception. Right? The stock market has hit all-time highs. At the same time, we're having nothing but trouble with international trade, with international commerce, with international banking. And the technicalities of describing all the ways that things are jacked up is really difficult. So speaking in general terms, and I just say things are fucked up, and people go, okay, we believe you, John. Other people go, I don't believe you, John. Give me instances. When I take the time and do more specific videos on any particular topic, then people go, you put out the information, John, but I still don't believe you, right? So it's the purpose of this channel and our discussions is not to win people over and to absolutely prove things, because we all have our belief systems. The purpose of the channel, here's some more context for you, YouTube. The purpose of the channel is to get us thinking and talking, communicating with each other, and trying to communicate in an intelligent and reasonable manner. But when we have people out there that want to bash you over the head with a fucking helmet, or punch you and hit you for having an opinion, it kind of lets you know they're not willing to talk anymore. They don't want to talk. Free expression is not good anymore unless you agree with them. The political left used to say, we have to be allowed to talk. Our voices matter. You can't silence us. Free speech. Now it's the opposite, is it not? Yeah. Get woke, go broke. Charlie's Angels, the new movie came out, fell on its face. Good. Fuck them. The director said, you're basically a sexist, pig, jackass, jerk of a man if you don't go see this movie. I'm just adding my description of what I heard when she talked, right? I'm thinking, okay, you just insulted the fuck out of me, lady. And I got to tell you, when I was a kid, under age 10, I watched Charlie's Angels. I loved it. I loved seeing chicks that were tough, cool, kick-ass, and hot. Guess what? All of this stuff is so over-the-top bullshit, and men are so bad and dumb and retarded, and only women this and only women that. Right? Hey, entertainment, football, you lost me. Movies, you lost me. College campuses, you lost me. I have no faith in these kids. They're retards. Literally, they're retarded. Their teaching and learning and thinking has been retarded. They can't keep up. So they get mad and react violently. Yeah. This is where it's going. It's absolutely where it's going. I mean, what else has happened? There's one more thing I'm missing that happened this week, right? It's just so much. I guess I should have wrote things down a little better. I was just thinking, how can I forget this? How can I forget that, right? They blew it with the movies, because they keep pushing their agenda. It's all about their agenda, their social engineering program. It's falling apart, right? This Greta Thunberg meltdown, right? China is set to build mega-sized coal-fired electricity plants. Where's Greta? People have just lost their stuff. It's one big circus. It's like big top ding-dong circus. My question to you, though, is, are things getting better or are things getting worse? Do you feel like everything's under control, or do you feel like it's getting out of control? Right? When you drive down the street, when you go to the store, when you go to work, are people reasonable? Do you feel safe? Or are you feeling more inclined to be nervous about others? Right? Do you see people taking sides on stuff? I know I do. Right? And I deal with all genders, all races, all ages. Not a ton of Muslims in my area, but there's other religions. And, I feel very tolerant of everybody, willing to talk to everybody. Do you? Or do you feel, like things are falling apart? Now, I'm willing to talk to people still, but I do feel that things are falling apart. I really do. But just, this idea that if you don't believe them on the left, there's something wrong with you and you should be violently hurt. That is becoming very real. And it's becoming very real in many sectors. I'm waiting for it to happen in people's employment, where if you say something that upsets somebody, somebody else can violently assault you. And in a lot of ways, the football game where the player hit the other guy in the head with the helmet, tore his helmet off his head first, and then tried bashing him, that's work-related. It's sports and entertainment, but that's also their jobs. Right? They're professional football players. That's their profession. And it's looking like the response to anything we don't like coming from the left is going to be violence. And we need to be prepared to avoid it, protect ourselves. So get food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Have a plan for work, home, school. Have a plan for shopping, going out for entertainment. Have a plan for your neighborhood, and most of all, have a plan for shit hitting the fan, because when it comes apart, you just never know who is going to be the one that just loses their shit. Anyways, thanks again, folks. Weekly wrap up, the WWU. And I'll talk to you again very soon. Have a good day, huh? Bye-bye.